Okay.
We're live, we're live, we're live. I'm just checking my Rumble. Come on, Rumble. Come on, baby. Come on, Rumble. Not on yet. Good evening, everyone. Good evening. I hope everyone's all right. Let's see who we've got in the chat. Serena, good evening, Serena. Come on, guys. I've shared this like mad. Let's see some people on. Come on, guys. Give me well, actually, I've got 10 watching and 16 likes, so that is spectacular. That's spectacular. Obviously, guys, as you can see by the title, Riots and Fires in Dublin, you've got me and the awesomely mighty Paul Rimmer today, and we're back from canvassing in the Wirral today, and we've had a really good day. Yes, Joe. Yes, Big Vinny. Gerald. English. Yes, Marcus. In the chat there, English Dissident Show. Tomorrow, me and Marcus are streaming with Nick Buckley, who's running as independent candidate for Mayor and Crime Commissioner in Manchester. And he's got his resume and that fits that description for that job. And he's running next year. So we've got a show on. I'd like people to please follow and give a like to English Dissident Show. He's in the chat now. If you just click on, you can get to his channel. Please give him a check. Yes, Craig, thank you for your help today. Yes, Sam G, Susie, Claire, I hope you're all right, guys. Now, as we've seen in Ireland, there's been several high-profile murders. I'll let Paul speak in a minute, but I'll just go through. I'll just go through a couple of them. Now, Aisling Murphy was killed, and she was killed in 2022 in Tullamore, which is about 30 minutes or so away from Dublin. The guy who killed her was Joseph Puska, 33, a former builder, and he's from his ethnicity is Eastern European, a Slovak national. And even before he came here, he'd had a charge of underage sex in Slovak. He's come over with his family. He's not worked or anything. He's claiming PIP, saying he's got something wrong with his spine, yet he's riding a bike. He followed and stalked several other women, maybe up to a dozen women, before he killed Aisling. Now, when the police went to his house and started questioning his family, they refused to cooperate. They refused to cooperate and just spat on our justice system. And then he ended up getting done for murder. It's just unbelievable. Not worked or anything. And Aisling's boyfriend did a bit of a statement, our husband at the time, boyfriend, I think it was, did a bit of a statement saying how this guy's not worked, just been got a big house, just got all the money off the Irish government, then he's killed his missus. And when he did that, the media sort of like shirked him, and they didn't want nothing else to do with him. People were angry, and there was shouts and that at the court time, the extra security on and stuff like that when this guy done. So he'd moved to Ireland 10 years ago and had been living near Tullamore since about 2015. But unbelievable. But I mean, there's that, but there's another case, and this is because Slovak is part of the European Union, and so they can go anywhere within the European Union. But of course, we know already that we've had murderers who've murdered in Europe over here. We've had rapists who've raped in Europe over here. Absolutely nothing said off the left, and certainly Ireland don't say nothing. And then Aidan Moffat and Michael Snee, there were two gay men, an Iraqi from Iraq, a guy from Iraq. I think he was an asylum seeker or he was an illegal. and he killed him, and he met him on Tinder and killed him. But I'm not going to go through how brutal this murder was. This guy chopped their heads off, and this is in the south of Ireland as well. This guy chopped their heads off, and he even had some kind of sexual contact with another guy who he assaulted, who lost his eye. Honestly, and he did it because of his religion, and you know, it goes against like the Islamic values. Now, you know, I know plenty of Christians, and I know a lot of Christians who are serious Christians, but I don't know Christians who would do this sort of thing for the sake of another religion. It's just not in the Church of England background to have people like this. And so, again, he's took all money, probably not worked or anything like that. And I'm sure he was an illegal or an asylum seeker. I will find that out. And this is another couple of murders. So obviously the people of Ireland are upset, and the people of Ireland are angry. And they're angry that their cares and concerns aren't addressed. This isn't just Ireland. This is Northern Ireland as well. All over Ireland and Northern Ireland, these kind of crimes are happening. Attacks on women, sexual assaults, antisocial behaviour, harassment. And then Leo Varadkar, the bender of a PM of Ireland, comes out and blames the far right. And what's even better, what's even unbelievably, not better, what's unbelievably worse is, if you noticed in the news, there was a Brazilian man who was hailed as a hero in the case of the stabbing of the kids and the woman. Oh, he's a hero. 250 grand raised for him. The media don't mention the white guy called Donahue, who was the one who got the knife off the attacker, who was the one that had multiple slash wounds all over his clothes. I don't know if he was slashed on his body, but his clothes were slashed. Not one mention of the white guy. Not one mention. And all this guy did was take the knife off the white guy and beat his helmet over the head of the guy who was stabbing. So, you know what I mean? And not one mention of the Irish media, not one mention of Leo Varadkar. All he's done is come out and called all the Irish far bloody right. Thugs, common criminals. That's what he said to you all. That's what he said. And I wonder why Ireland is rioting. Paul?
Well, there's a conspiracy, isn't there? Conspiracy between the ruling elite, the political parties, the uni party, they call them in America. They're all the same. In Ireland, you got Fine Gael and Fianna Fáil and Sinn Féin. They're all singing from the same hymn sheet, that somehow that we want a borderless Ireland. We want to welcome immigrants from the Middle East, from Africa, from the Asian subcontinent. And Ireland's just being overwhelmed by the numbers that are coming in. And people are very uneasy about what's going on. They feel under threat. Obviously, they are under threat. It's shown as, I remember the Tommy Robinson video about Ireland earlier in the year, about the sheer scale of the harassment of women in Ireland by these single male asylum seekers that are pouring in. And these people are incredibly arrogant, incredibly hostile, because they're almost protected species. The police take their side. Everyone knows that. The media will not scrutinize them and question what they're doing. The media are with them. The politicians are with them. And the Irish, like the British, like everyone in the Western world now, feels alienated from the powers that be, that somehow we're expendable now. It's not that we're second-class citizens. We feel like third-class citizens. We feel like all the forces of law and order, of government, of the media, they're all against us. All the national institutions are being infiltrated by this globalism. and like they're promoting mass uncontrolled immigration, and it's just going on and on. It's endless, and it's causing a housing crisis. Like, I mean, we've just seen Geert Wilders win an incredible vote in the Dutch elections, and people don't realise what major reason for that is the fact that 400,000 Dutch people could not get adequate homes. And we've been out today, we've been canvassing on the Wirral, the National Housing Party of the UK. We had a great team out today. I got a great response from people. I went canvassing, and then I talked to people. What are the issues for you? I've been trapped in this house for like 3 years. I've got 2 kids. I've only got 1 bedroom. There's damp in the bedroom. I've been trying to get a house. They put me on the list, but I'm not getting a house. I said, well, look, there's people coming in from overseas, single males, and they're getting houses and flats. They're jumping to the front of the housing queue. And these people, and they all know about it. As soon as I mentioned that, John, I was on a winner. As soon as I mentioned the fact that there were 1 million people in Britain on the housing list, people said, and they were foreigners were coming in through illegal means, well, legal, but really criminal for me, coming across the channel, coming into this country, and they're going to the top of the housing list. They're getting properties, and that really frustrates and angers people. And people talking about they can't get access to dentists, the treatment in the NHS, they're being pushed, they're being told delays. I talked to a lot of people who had relatives who died after receiving the vax. They were angry about that. There was a lot of anger in people once they realised that I was sympathetic to what they had to say. You see, a lot of people are intimidated. I spoke to an Irish woman on Sunday evening. I said, what do you think about what happened in Dublin with the riots? She said, oh, it's terrible. They're all thugs. And I said, look, they had a legitimate reason to be outraged there. This Arab guy, had stabbed another child 6 months previously and had been allowed back out on the streets of Ireland. He'd attacked these kids with a knife and attacked the women. He'd waited outside the nursery to do this. Now, he might have mental health problems. A lot of people have got mental health problems. But what was motivating him to attack Irish children? Why did he target Irish children? Why did he target Irish women? I said, this is just an outpouring of anger in Dublin. And once she realised, this lady, that actually I was on her side and I was sympathetic to the Irish people, her tune changed completely. She said, we don't know what's happening. We feel bewildered. We've got them pouring into our towns and villages. There's the Irish government and I've organised for new homes to be built. There's a terrible housing problem in Ireland. And these asylum seekers, refugees, immigrants, invaders, whatever you want to call them, they're getting priority for the housing, but they're invading the welfare state. They're getting access to all the resources of the welfare state. What we've paid taxes into all our lives, they're actually just milking it for all it's worth. Not only are they getting free housing, they're getting benefits to live on, free cash, they're getting free education, they're getting free healthcare, and they're getting priority. And it's just not fair. I mean, if it was just a small number on the fringe, we could all accept that and just say, well, you know, it's an active charity. But they're coming in such huge numbers now. We had 1.2 million immigrants, gross number, in Britain alone last year. So since 1997, we've had in the region of 14 million immigrants into Britain. That's a nation the size of the Netherlands has come here, and they've invaded our cities and they've transformed our cities out of all recognition. And it's ongoing. It's not going to stop. And we know that Rishi Sunak has no intention of stopping it because he's not even a patriotic Englishman. Rishi Sunak hasn't got a drop of British blood in his veins. He wanted to live in California. He's proud of his Indian ancestry. Obviously, he's married into an Indian lady. India means a lot to him. And he's just announced, irony of irony, that we're going to create thousands of new visas for Indians to come and live in Britain. Now, this is an ongoing invasion on a mass scale, which is utterly changing our nation. And people are very uneasy about what's going on, because there is a lot of social issues attached with such incredible levels of immigration. But it's also like we feel that our voice is no longer heard. That's why the Irish really rioted, because no one's listening to us anymore. We've been shut out of the political process. As I say, the political parties, Labour and Tories are just the same in this country, just like in Ireland. The major political parties, someone has infiltrated them and bought them off. The globalists, they've been bought off, and they're all now promoting this mass, uncontrolled immigration. And in Ireland, because there's been such a ferocious backlash to it, they're now talking about draconian laws to stop free speech, to stop any anger being expressed verbally, to stop any organizations emerging to challenge this government policy of unending mass immigration. So the way they're going to deal with the anger, the frustration, the fear of the native populations, the way they're going to deal with that is through even more oppression. Because we've had these laws to limit free speech and to stop the real democracy in this country. These laws have been in place since the 1960s, and they've just got worse and worse. And of course, the government has been very hostile to freedom on the social media. And we saw that when the election was stolen from Trump in 2020, they shut down platforms, they deplatformed a lot of people. There's a lot of cancel culture going on. But then along came Twitter, along came X, Elon Musk. And he just created a window where people could express what they really felt. People could articulate their anger. People could say what they could. They could actually notice what was going on and identify it. And that, of course, really alarms the people that rule over us. Someone's called it neo-feudalism. It's like in the feudal times. You have a ruling strata, a ruling elite, and the people are just like peasants that are excluded and are told what to do. And the only way you can actually respond to something like that, when you're that excluded, is to riot. The riot in Dublin was an act of frustration. What amazed me was the scale of it, the speed of it, and the intensity of it. These people were really angry. The Irish are really angry about what's going on in their country. Now, I've spoken to a lot of Irish people over the last few years, and they've told me this is bubbling up. This eventually, the keg is going to explode. Now, if the politicians think they can simply brush all this under the carpet and carry on as if nothing has happened, they're making a big mistake, because the issues are ongoing. The housing problem gets worse and worse. We see every day that our welfare state is being devoured by illegal immigrants, invaders who should have no access to it. They've never paid in a penny in their lives, and yet they're milking it for all it's worth. And we, the native people of this country, the settled people of this country, we're finding it harder and harder to get access to things we took for granted. And all the government seems to want to do now is impose more and more taxes on the native populations. We're being milked to finance this mass invasion. And people don't realize just how much this invasion is costing us. I just saw the thing yesterday. I always thought that each illegal immigrant would cost us £50,000 per annum once they arrived. This is the total benefits that they receive, the whole package. In fact, the EU yesterday said it's €250,000 for every immigrant that comes in. That's how much they cost. Now, that's the initial cost. That's the first year. The problem is 80% of immigrants since 1997 have stayed on benefits on the welfare state ever since. So this is an ongoing cost, year in, year out. involving 14 million people who are immigrants. They weren't born here. They're not part of our welfare state. They've come and invaded our welfare state, and they're milking it for hundreds of billions of pounds every year. It's the same in Ireland, the same in Europe. And this is the reason our governments have such massive debt. I mean, the amount of money they're having to spend to finance this immigrant invasion, it dwarfs what they're spending and, throwing money at the Ukraine. They're still giving 24 billion a year to the EU, the British government. Ireland, it's just incredible that they're doing this, even though the local populations, the native populations, we don't want it. And yet, who is prepared to articulate what we desire? We want to see our resources spent on our families. We've got children. We've got responsibilities. We've got needs, medical needs. We've got housing needs. We've got educational needs. We want to see the funds pumped into this country, not squandered on anybody who turns up here, throws away the passport and claims asylum. And we're wondering, why are there so many males of military age entering our country? What is the end game of this? This is a threat to everybody, because these people, if they get on the street, and we're seeing this with the Palestinian protest, they're like an unstoppable army. The police are intimidated by them. Yeah, the police will pick on the likes of Tommy Robinson and any native, they'll pick on the Irish rioters. They'll do that, and they'll bring out the truncheons and they'll be ferocious. But when it comes to dealing with this immigrant invasion, the police suddenly become soft. They seem suddenly incapable. Even the police are now against us. So there's a frustration and an unease in the native population about what's going on. It's really mounting all the time. And we've got to have a political solution to this, John. How do you see the way ahead, John? John, you're mute. I can't hear you.
Even before the way ahead, that Leo Varadkar is bringing some hate crime bill in, hasn't he? It's coming. One of his MPs said in Parliament, it's going to be hard work, Paul. It's going to be hard work. But I believe that the people of Ireland are waking up and are going to start voting different. And that means that his party are going to get less votes. There's going to be more connection between, like, the more working class Irish are going to start standing up like we are standing up. That's what we need them to do. You know what I mean? And I can see through this a vote or leave the EU. I can see it coming in Ireland's short future now. But we just need to get on board, guys. We need to call them out. We do all the time. I'm not one who doesn't call them out. I've confronted MPs, mayors at question time, chief of polices, and I've got more questions for them. We need to call them out. And I think the tide is working now, because a lot of the normal working class are seeing the hypocrisy within our councils, our governments, everyone who leads us. So I think that's our big thing. Get more people out there, get more people involved, get joining the National Housing Party, and let's get them all voted out. There's three.
Well, during the scandemic, we saw the build-up of this resistance movement, and I think that fed in a lot into the riots in Dublin. People have formed nexus. They formed a network of fellow sort of patriots and people who want to resist the elite. And that was called into action pretty quickly. But right across Europe now, there's almost like an eruption of populist sentiment. I mean, that Dutch election result was absolutely sensational, the way Geert Wilders won 37 seats. He more than doubled the number of seats for his party, and he's in the leading position. Now, also in Spain, we've seen this. I mean, the socialists have tried to do a stitch-up with the Catalan independence parties, and that's created a really ferocious reaction in Spain on the street. And for night after night, there's been huge demonstrations in Spain. That's a very volatile situation. In Portugal, for the first time, there's an emergence of a national populist party, which is threatening to really destabilize the ruling elite in Portugal. Of course, in Germany, we have the AfD, and we have mass movements there, especially in East Germany, but in many German towns, the anger is rising now about what's going on. And the German government has had to backtrack on its open door immigration policy. Because if they go for this borderless world, what it means is that the people of the Middle East and Africa and the Indian subcontinent will simply come here to milk the welfare state. They'll just come here to plug into the welfare state. They'll come in such numbers, which they've done so far, that they start to acquire political power. And the institutions of the state begin to defer to them, begin to do their will. And we're seeing it across Britain now. Local councils are being taken over by these groups. You live in Oldham, John, you know all about that. Bolton, Manchester, Birmingham, London itself. And the British, what is going on in our country and what are we prepared to tolerate? I think it's getting very hard now because there's so much financial pressure with the inflation and the high interest rates. People want a solution. They realize this is not sustainable. And of course, there is the crime wave. Not just the rapes and the harassment of women, which went on a mass scale in Britain and is now on a mass scale in Ireland, but also there's an epidemic of shoplifting, of robberies, of corruption, of fraud, of benefit fraud, housing fraud, subletting of social housing. It's on a huge scale. And we've got to react against that. What will be the outcome of this, John? How are we going to stop this process? You mute, John, you mute.
Well, I mean, someone said there's no voting thing. There is, honestly, guys. In Oldham, 3 Conservative councils have been suspended, and they're looking at forming an independent party. I'm going to be using that on my leaflet, yeah, in the next election, right? We've had a councillor, 2019, Martin Joe, the councillor in Hollingwood, who got charged with having indecent images, got all the way to Crown Court, then got acquitted. And I don't know what he got acquitted for, but he got charged with having indecent images. The vote is going down for Labour and Tory in Oldham. The independents are rising up. There's more independents in the council than there ever has been. There's more independents running in the council. And if we look at Bedfordshire, they've now got a majority independent council and they've got an independent member of parliament. And this all helps in the bigger picture. The thing is, our government are scared of this. This is why they give us an hard time. Because we're taking their votes. People are not voting for them. I hope the Party of Islam does take off me. I do. Imagine the drop in Labour votes. Imagine the drop in Labour votes. They might get some key local council seats, but Labour will do disastrous. And especially on a general election, there'll be a good chance for an independent to get in. And there's going to be an independent running in Jim McManaman's ward next year, which is Raja Mia. Not a fan, although he has got skills and he's not a liar. He has called out the council and that, and he's running as a member of parliament. And honestly, it's a good chance of getting a good share of the votes. But, it's all to win. It's all to win, guys. We've just got to be strong over it. Also, if you look at the referendum, how many people voted in the referendum? Was it about 60% of the country or 75%, Paul?
It was high, yeah. It was over 70.
Yeah, and it's like that in some of the wards. So we need to get people voting, and I concentrate on them people who don't vote. A lot of people who vote for me haven't voted in 10 years or so, or don't vote because they just won't do with them corrupt politicians. Now I've come on the scene. Yes, I'm definitely voting for you, John. You speak honestly, you speak the truth, and you're hardworking. That's what they'll say. You know what I mean? So it's all to win for. Don't ever think that there is no route to go down the political solution. And, you know, you might say it's rigged. Well, it's up to us to call out that it's rigged. In previous meetings we've had with the council, I brought up voting fraud, which is a big issue in Oldham. And no one had a go at me. They're just all silent because I'm right. And there has been a voting fraud issue in Oldham. And I explain what it is. It's one person telling all the community what to vote for. That's what the voting fraud is. It's not changing anything. If we can get these called out, get them to the forefront and all that lot, that's why I'm glad we've got ID voting now. I'm glad. And you don't even need an ID. You can just apply for a postal vote. But there's been some, actually, because we're registered on the Electoral Commission, there has been some changes to voting and postal voting to do with because they have to ask us because we're a registered party. So they're onto it that there is tricks and things going and all that lot. It's just up to us to call it out. Let's not just stand in the background. We have done for too long, people. For too long, we've done nothing, thinking other people are going to look after us. That's it, Paul. We've left it to them. They'll look after us. Labour are for the working class. And when they started to change, we didn't do enough to stop them. You know what I mean? We didn't do enough. If the BNP would have had the backing that there is in the nationalist scene right now, they would have smashed Parliament back in the 2000s. But they didn't have that backing. We never had social media. We go on about our social media a lot. We never had that social media reach or anything. But if we would have had done in the 2000s, I tell you, things would have been a lot different in this country. It would have been a lot different.
What we need, John, is a nationalist populist force in this country. What struck me when the riots were taking place in Dublin was the influence of Conor McGregor. He was posting on Twitter and he was getting up to like 10 million hits on his tweets. People were reading what he had to say. And he said, this is war. He said, you reap what you've sown. You've abused the Irish people. You've oppressed the Irish people. And now they've risen. And he became like a de facto leader. He was articulating how the rioters felt. And he's a populist leader. And I think that's what we're seeing emerging. You know, we've just seen this election in Argentina with Trump in America. Right across the world, Western world, populist leaders that are emerging to give voice to the feelings of the people, the anger of the population. Now, we were out today canvassing, speaking to people. When you speak to people, you go knocking on doors. What are the issues for you? And you realize that people are desperate for an alternative. And I was getting so much positive feedback. You know, people saying, yeah, I'll vote for you. This is exactly what we're looking for. And you know, I got one guy said, look, I'll post leaflets for you. Another guy said, I'll become a member of the party. People are eager for change, but they need to see that there's a vehicle out there that they can get behind, a populist vehicle. And that's what the National Housing Party, the United Kingdom, is. It's that vehicle. And we've been around now, how long for, John? 18 months, I think it is, something like that, 2 years. And we've stayed the course. We've built up in numbers now. We've got a branch network emerging across the country. We're out there canvassing. We're active. We're bringing people in. We're connecting people. We're getting involved with different issues, not just housing, not just immigration, not just stopping refugees, but also the way children are educated in schools. The abuse of our children in schools has got to stop. This brainwashing on the woke agenda, that has got to stop. People are angry about that, and that was expressed today. Also, the issue of the way the social services deals with families. You know, there's a lot of abuse of families, and children are being taken off families unfairly. We need to stand on our traditional values. You know, we need to strengthen the family again in this country and promote having children, you know. Let's promote a wholesome agenda. But there are so many populist issues out there. And it's when people feel like they have a vehicle that will listen to them and give them a voice and give them representation. We've got to get representation in councils. We've got to hear the people's voice has got to be there in the places of power. And to do that, we've got to win council seats and then parliamentary seats. You can't just walk into a parliamentary seat. A parliamentary seat is a big constituency. It requires a huge vote to become an MP. And you need a real sort of almost like a military campaign to achieve that. So we have to build up from the bottom. That's what we are, a grassroots movement, building up from the bottom. And we're getting people involved and we're making an impact, but we need more people. And it's just empowering ordinary people to get involved and to realize that they can make a difference. And wow, can they make a difference? At the moment, we're getting 250 votes in council seats. We want to double that. We want to treble it. We want to get it over 1,000 in each council seat so we can actually challenge for the seat and take the seat. You know, if the likes of myself was speaking in the Liverpool Council, or John in Oldham, or Angie on the Wirral, or Callum down in Gloucester, or Pat in London. There's so many different places where we've got representation, where we've got people standing as candidates now. If they can get onto the councils and their voices can be heard, we can start to enact change at the local level. And we can build up a party, a party which has got roots in this country, a grassroots party. And then we can start to challenge the really big issues, like leaving the UN Refugee Convention. We talk about these issues and we raise them, but we need to have the power to actually enact our manifesto. John, how long do you think this process is going to take until we start to get representation for the people?
Well, I mean, on our party side, 10 years, but it's happening now. Independents are being elected as council members. There's independents coming in as members of parliament. If Linnelly lot run a member of parliament next year, they're going to get it, guys. They're going to get that member of parliament seat. So things are changing gradually. I just want to go to Pink Rose. So what's the solution? The Navy has said no to turning the boats around. So not sure what reforming UKIP can do. Well, I'll tell you this. Anybody can go back 2 years, over 2 years, and nobody was talking about this. Yeah, the elephant in the room. We did several high-profile banner drops with this, and now it gets talked about on GB News. I've heard it on IT, TV News. I've heard it on talk radio. So what's changed? Maybe that's because we've campaigned and done the banner drops with this. Maybe that's why they started to wake up. More people are talking about it. 2-3 years ago, nobody talked about the European Court of Human Rights. No one talked about it. Now that's a big issue in the government. Suella Braverman, Rishi Sunak, they've all talked about it. And they've all talked about this. So it's up to us to keep pushing. In another 5 years, in less than 5 years, we could be exit that. If we exit that, the people coming here are treated as criminals. They're not given everything. They'd soon stop coming, guys. They would soon stop coming. Now, Reform and UKIP, they're not good because they're more to the side of the government and stuff like that. And they will never say that they don't want to accept anybody else. They will never say that because it's politically correct way to say it, even though we say it the politically incorrect way, which is the right way to say it. But they will never say that. They will never say that. Maybe if they get in power, they might turn the tune and turn round. But the thing is, with National Housing Party, if we get in power, we're not going to change anything. This will still be on the book. We're not going to get in power and start sucking up to Saudi Arabia. We're not going to get in power and start sucking up to Ukraine. We won't do them kind of things. We'll do it properly, and we'll do it the right way.
John, I was saying to people today, people saying to me, it's not worth voting. I said, look, you've got a vote. That's an incredible power. Exercise that power. If we all exercise it together, we can make change. We still live in a democracy. If we act en masse behind a political vehicle like the National Housing Party, we would terrify the ruling elite, they would panic and they would start to listen to the people again. We have a democracy, and that's an enormous privilege in the West that we've still got. We've got to make it work. And the only way we can make it work is that we have a party that speaks for the people. Now, what the globalists have managed to do is sew up the three main parties, the Lib, Lab, Con. So really, they're all singing from the same hymn sheet, but they're all under a lot of pressure. The Tories are under a lot of pressure because they're failing to stop the invasion, the immigrant invasion. Labour are under huge pressure because the Muslims are now totally angry with them about their stance on Palestine. There's a Muslim rebellion within the Labour Party, and the Labour Party has basically bet their shirt on the Muslims voting for them for the foreseeable future. John's talking about independent parties. A lot of Muslims have resigned as Labour councillors and are now standing actually as independents. And they're in the council chambers now as independents. I mean, Burnley has been lost to Labour because 10 Muslims have left the Labour Party, linked up with the Lib Dems and the Greens, and they're now formed a new council. So Labour are really, and it's not just the Muslims that are in rebellion against Keir Starmer's leadership. It's the progressive left as well. They're really angry with them, and they're jumping ship. So these become independents. The whole thing starts to fracture. The Tories are deeply unpopular because they're not listening to the people and they're going against what they promised. And that's leading to not only to the rise of reform, but to people like becoming discontented with the whole political system. They're looking for alternatives. As John said, reform are still willing to accept refugees. We're saying no. We've had too many refugees. It's time to say no more. And the only way we can do that is if we leave all these international treaties, like the 1951 UN Refugee Convention, like the European Court of Human Rights, like that Marrakesh Agreement that Theresa May agreed to, which opened the door to this mass refugee influx, so-called refugees. But so that the whole thing is in a state of flux. But if we're going to make democracy work and we're going to take advantage of it, we've got to get organised. We've got to step up to the plate. Join the National Housing Party. We're expanding daily now. We're getting new members every day. Come on board. It's a vehicle that's been going, we've been going almost 2 years, 1.5 years, 2 years, and we're here for the long term. We've got a long-term commitment to this country. And I can see now, people know we are. We get name recognition. We've got 40,000 followers on Twitter. People know who we are. They know what our policies are. They know where we stand on the big issues, and they like us. They like us because we speak for the ordinary people. We want to see the people empowered. I say when I go out in the street, National Housing Party, we represent local people, and we represent the people. We are the people's party, because the other parties don't. They have an elitist agenda which they impose on the people. They don't listen to the people. I said to when I was canvassing today, I said to people, "Do you ever get in contact with your local Labour councillor?" No. "Do you ever see your local Labour councillor?" No. You've got all these issues about housing, about antisocial behaviour, about rubbish collection, about parking, and yet the local Labour councillors are just not interested in addressing any of them. I said, look, they take your votes for granted. The Lib, Lab, Con take your vote for granted. They just shuffle a pack, they shuffle a power between themselves, and the people are excluded. We've got to have a people's party, a vehicle that speaks for the ordinary people of this nation and what they are concerned about. And that's what the National Housing Party is. And we're going to build up this party, and we are building this party. We're seeing results. Now, we saw in the week that Steve Laws said he's thinking of forming a new party, the National Party, but he hasn't yet put in an application to the Electoral Commission. They will reject that name because we actually wanted that name initially, but they won't accept that name, and they'll make it difficult for them. I would say to Steve Laws and all those who are looking for a new party, come and join the National Housing Party. We're happening. We've got a structure. We've got everything in place. We've we've sorted everything out with the Electoral Commission. We're going forward, and we're going to make an impact in this country. And come the next election, set of local elections, we're going to be standing candidates across this country. When the time is right, we will challenge for Parliament. Reform are going to have a go Parliament in the next election. I hope they do well, but I doubt they will, because they haven't got the local base. They're an AstroTurf party. They've got no grassroots support. You've got to build up support at the local level. You've got to do the hard work. You've got to knock on people's doors. You've got to deliver leaflets. You've got to address local issues. You've got to get the confidence of local people. You've got to interface. You've got to interact with them. And you'll find out when you do that, that people love you, love the fact that someone's prepared to listen to them and prepared to take up their concerns. And they rally to you. They're overjoyed that you've knocked on their door and said, look, what are the issues for you? What concerns you? It suddenly makes them feel part of the democratic process again. And that's what we're about, reviving democracy in this country. What the elite are doing is taking our democracy away by stealth, by denying us alternatives. The Lib, Lab, Con are all the same. You think, I don't like the Conservatives, I'll switch to Labour. It doesn't make any difference. They've still got the same policies in power, and we've seen that. We thought when we voted for Boris Johnson in 2019, when he gave him that overwhelming majority, 84 seats, that he would do what the British people wanted, that he would pull up the drawbridge, but he never. It's been worse than ever now, the influx, the immigrant invasion. And we've been betrayed, totally betrayed by the Conservative Party. And we know that if Labour get in power, they will betray everything. They will betray the ordinary man of this country. They will actually make it far worse. So we need a new voice, guys. We need a new voice. If we're going to have a future, if we're going to give our children a future, give Britain a future, if we're going to be loyal to our ancestors who fought wars and worked hard and, strove to make this a great country for us, for our generation, and for future generations. We need to be loyal to our past, and we need to be protective of our kids' future. It's like being a good father. That's what the National Housing Party is. We want to be a good father to our nation and make sure our nation is looked after. We want to be a responsible government, because the people who run it now are totally irresponsible. What they're doing to this country is a crime. What they're doing to our welfare state, what they're doing to our cities, what they're doing to our housing, what they've done to our border, it's criminal. They've taken away our inheritance. They've given it away, and we have to reclaim it before it's too late. John?
Oh, yeah, we do. We will reclaim, guys. We will reclaim. I just want to mention something. I have been working with some residents in Hollingwood, and I had a council meeting about 5 weeks ago over this concern with 5 residents speaking up for maybe 20 or 30 residents. One of them residents joined the party yesterday, and he's top man on that street. Thank you very much, Ronnie. Top man. And I'm sure he's going to help us out in the future and stuff like that. But this is what I've been doing. I've been going to council meetings. I've been supporting residents. I helped. I got a phone call one day. Vulnerable woman, really vulnerable woman, needs somewhere to live. I supported her, and within 2 weeks, we had a nice place, just all women, no men in it. She's in a good place now, and I did that. And I've had meetings with other people around the town and been to the council, talking to councillors, chief executives and all that lot. And no matter what anybody says on me, you ask them what I'm like. You ask them chief executives what I'm like. I'm a very nice, calm, responsible person when it comes to a meeting. I'm not banging on the table or anything like that. So, I'm learning the process as I'm going along. I'm a very confident person. I'm sure that I will be getting that council seat eventually. Give myself a 5-year period. We'll come into the 2 years in May, and then I'm another 3 years, and I'm getting that council seat. Very confident. What can I bring to the council? Well, obviously, if you know me, I'm passionate. I speak the truth. I'm honest. and that. But what other skills have I got? Well, I've done a lot of staff training and procedural training for people and stuff like that with machinery. I've taught people to use complicated electronic machinery, mechanical machinery, and stuff like that. So that is one of my primary skills. That also, I work very well on my own and as a member of a team. That's my other good primary skills. And them are good skills for the council. Them are good skills for the council. We was with two girls today, with two women, Angie in the Wirral and Andy from London. And both have issues with social services. And I was talking to them today because procedures aren't followed within the council or within the social services or within the police. That's why Great Manchester Police have not reported over 100,000 crimes, because they've not followed the procedures. You know what I mean? So we need to get these things in order. Maybe I'm the guy who can sort that out within the council chambers or whatever, within the council hierarchy and stuff like that. You know, I'm going to be facing obstacles, but I'm very confident to get to them obstacles. We just need to knock on doors, guys, and wake people up. After, like Paul said, the scamdemic, the immigration, everybody is, lots of people are awake, or if they're not awake, they're coming awake and they're seeing hypocrisy in our government. Our government aren't going to last. We'll be having a referendum on proportional voting, or another parties will rise, or independents will rise, which will drastically change how our government is. It will drastically change how our government is. It is coming, guys. It is coming.
What I would say, John, is that you would make an excellent councillor. There's no doubt about it. I mean, I was talking to people today, and they said the calibre of Labour politicians who were just put there as placement. They don't even campaign. He said the calibre is absolutely awful. They have no concern for the local people. They don't listen to them. You, John, would be a voice for the local people, and you would address the issues that they raise. And people need that. They need to know that there is a party out there that actually cares about local people, that actually will empower them rather than suppress them all the time, will actually give them a voice in trying to shut them up and like make false accusations towards them. I mean, another guy I was speaking to today, he said, you know, they call you far right, they call you thugs. But when I meet you people, the National Housing Party and other independents and populist and patriotic parties, you're always nice people. You're always decent people. You always listen. You always have good things to say. And I said, look, I'm a Christian. John's a Christian. We're a Christian party. We believe in loving your neighbour, of helping each other, that we've got to come together as a community. We've got to come together as a people, as the British always did. We've been a Christian nation since, I don't know, the 7th century. And we've had that spirit amongst us where we cared for each other. We looked after each other. We looked after the vulnerable. We protected our women and our children. That's all the Irish were doing. They were protecting their women and children. They were showing their anger at what had happened because the police forces have not done their job. We know with the whole grooming gang, Pakistani grooming gangs in Britain, and the hundreds of thousands of British girls who were raped, the police did not do their job. The social services did not do their job. And at the very top, the Labour Party, Gordon Brown, told the institutions of the state not to get involved. It was a criminal act, the way they betrayed the children of the station.
It came from Brown also not to record ethnicity of the offenders. That came from Brown as well. That's why when the government had the rape gang inquiry, it was a whitewash, because it would just put all white people when it shouldn't have been. There should have been loads of brown people and Pakistanis, but they never recorded that data, and that's true, that, guys. They never recorded that data. An absolute disgrace. I just want to give a big up to Conor McGregor. One big up. I'm not a fan of MMA, and I'm not particularly a fan of Conor McGregor in person, but he spoke out for the Irish people, and now it's looking like he might be under investigation for hate crimes. And, you know, he spoke out more than once. It's not just this time. He has been a venomous speaker out against the politicians. And that's what he said. He says it's nothing to do. It's nothing. It's not that I've got an issue with immigration. I've got an issue with the politicians who allowed it all. That's what he says. And that's the kind of thing I feel. It's not particular. I've got any particular nasty feeling towards anyone. It just feels like wherever you worked or in your life, we're just being screwed over by the people who are supposed to run the factory or whatever. You know, that's what hurts more than anything with me. And, you know, like they lie, they brand us, that it's looking, he might get charged, Connor might get charged with that new hate crime thing if this goes ahead. You know what I mean? And that's what scares me more than any person in real life. That scares me. That scares me. And
what is happening now, John, across the West, is that people aren't being intimidated anymore. We just had enough of it. We've had enough of the lies. We saw it all with the scamdemic and the way they imposed this terrible vax upon us. And you know, I spoke to another guy today whose mother died after getting the vax. My mother died after taking the vax. There's carnage out there. I know loads of people whose family members have died after taking the vax. And there needs to, someone has to be called to account for this, that this was imposed upon us. We don't trust the elite anymore. And they think, if they think they can simply silence us through these bogus laws, hate laws, which are just hate, they hate people speaking the truth. That's what the hate laws are all about. Conor McGregor will not be silenced. He will become a hero in Ireland. New people are emerging all the time. As I say, X has given us a platform to speak the truth, and it's contagious. People are speaking the truth in boldness. Now, it says in the Bible, the righteous are as bold as lions. We are standing up for what is right. We're standing up for our nations, for the rule of law, for responsible government. The people who pay the taxes get the benefits, not the whole world. I mean, a father is responsible for his own family. He's not responsible for every family. We can't feed the world. The world's got to feed itself. It's got to be responsible for itself. We've got to have strong borders. This abuse of our border, this invasion has to stop. It's madness. And we can't see it stopping at the moment. It just goes on and on. The politicians try and fob us off, but it's creating more and more social problems. It's creating more and more unease in the British population and in the Irish population. We're in this together. The passion that the Irish showed it's in this country as well. We're the same people. We've got to stand together in this. We've got to protect our British Isles, and we've got to secure a future for the children of these islands. And this is true right across the West. And I'm not speaking into a vacuum here, because right across the West, populist movements now are moving into power. They're really asserting themselves. And we need one in Britain. And we're going to get one, because we've got people on board now who are totally committed to make it happen. People like John. John, do you want to finish?
Yes, thank you, Paul. Thank you. Thank you, everyone in the chat. Really, thank you very much. Two-tier policing is not happening. I promise you, the lodger. I've been to the mayor's question time several times. My next question, when I get there, is going to be about why they allow Black Lives Matter and these Palestine protests, yet when mainly white people protest, like we had the arena bombing, then they're treated like dirt. I'm going to say that the next mayor's question time, so it's going to be taped, and I'm going to give it to the police as well for two-tier policing. How can I not say it when everyone else, all the rest of the media and the celebrities and the other politicians are all saying two-tier policing? So that's coming up in the next mayor question time. I promise you, mate. I like that. I promise you it's coming up. But thank you, everyone. Please join our party. Again, I'm streaming tomorrow night with Marcus, and we've got Nick Buckley, independent candidate for Mayor and Crime Commissioner on. He has got some tough questions, and I'll tell you what, he sounds very good. He's been saying a lot of positive things to me, and so he's probably going to be getting my vote. But we've got him on tomorrow, 7 p.m. Different time, 7 p.m. I'm streaming with Marcus English, who's part of the program party now. But his podcast, he asked me to. He wanted a co-host, so I put myself forward for co-host. We've got some great guests lined up. We've got apostate from Islam coming on. Of course, we've got Nick Buckley, independent candidate for Crime Commissioner. We'll have plenty of people on over the next few weeks. But thank you very much, guys. Thank you to the awesome, holy Paul Rimmer there. When he came out today, the sun was shining, and that was Paul. That the sun was shining because of Paul. But thank you, everyone in the chat. Thank you, Pat, Angie, Andy, Jordan. Big shout out to our Craig as well for coming down today. We've had a great day. Angie's loved it. She's had really good response at the door. People know her family, because it's someone they know, and she's a proper girl from down there. She's sparking people to start voting and things like that. So she got a load of yeses today. She's got plenty of work to do, but she's got 3 years, so we will be going down there again. But
onwards and upwards, John. Onwards and upwards.
Thank you.
I'll see you all next week.
Everyone in the chat.
Cheers, John.
Cheers. God bless to everyone, and catch you tomorrow, 7 p.m. my channel. We're streaming it all over. I'll stream to Rumble as well. Or am I streaming to Rumble? I think I am streaming to Rumble. But we'll see. And we'll catch it all tomorrow. But thank you very much, guys. Thank you very much.